Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant. For, well, now, I find myself under a rather severe cognitive load at the moment, and rather than bowing out, curling up and going to sleep, which is actually what I would prefer to do, I thought it would be a more sensible approach to make shorter versions of the videos that are late. So to that end, what we are going to do today is more like it's more like a check-in and a tie-up. What do I mean by that? Well, Neptune has already moved into Aries. Saturn is getting ready to move into Aries, and we have the Saturn-Neptune conjunction upcoming. We also have a big solar eclipse that's in the mix as well, not too far away now from where we are. And so whether we like it or not, there are stories that are ending, there are cycles that are ending, and I thought it might be a good idea to take stock of where we are right now, because everything's going to get very, very turbulent very, very soon. And I think the best way that we can protect ourselves against the turbulence, as well as being flexible and adaptable and all those kinds of things, is to actually have a sense of where we are and what we can let go, what story is done now. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a look at where you are right now. We'll pull 3 cards for that. We'll look at how to move through the uncertainty of the moment, because Neptune is so active at the moment. Like, it's distorting everything. He is distorting everything. Lord of the Invisible Empire and all that. And then thirdly, we will look at what story, what narrative, what set of circumstances is finished, what is done, right? We know that Neptune was finishing up an old story in Aries. We know that, excuse me, Saturn's been doing, in Pisces, sorry, Saturn's been doing the same. Uranus is coming to the end of his time in Taurus, so he's definitely finishing up a story there. And so on and so forth. I think it's going to be very difficult to work out what the next step is, and the next step is, and the next step is, if we don't have a sense of where we are right now. So that's the plan. For the extended, we will look into this a little deeper. We'll look for any potential pitfalls or shadow traps that you need to be aware of in the next few weeks, and we'll look at some advice to navigate through. Hopefully that is okay for you. I am simply not capable of doing anything else at the moment, so it is what it is. So let's give these another big shuffle in front of you so you can see it happen. And we will go... No, we won't. Let's just pull them out. Where are you right now? Right, so we have the 5 of Pentacles. Well, not necessarily a bad card. Depends on the context, right? We have the 10 of Pentacles, we have the World, and we have the Fool all coming out together. And since I said I was going to pull 3 cards for each, I'm actually going to pull another one here. And we have 10 of Cups reversed. Very interesting. How to move through the uncertainty. Let's get them all out on the table so we can see what's going on. 5 of Wands. 7 of Wands. And Queen of Swords. Interesting. This is echoing what I've been trying to say for some time, actually. Certainly in the weekly energy readings that I've done. And what story is finished? Page of Swords. We have 7 of Swords. And we have the Knight of Pentacles, which is Virgo. I'm not suggesting that you're finished, Virgo, but certainly some aspect of the way that you have been, who you are, an old story, an old narrative, all these kind of things definitely coming to completion. At the bottom of the deck, we have the High Priestess. And what's really interesting about this is only if we just take in to account all of the cards that are at the table at once, all right? Just drink in all the competing energies. And they're not actually competing energies. They're all definitely pulling in one direction. What feels really strong is the notion that space is being created. Now, not within your circumstances, although you may see some echo of it happening in your circumstances, but the space is internal. And this very much corresponds with the South Node moving through your sign. I mean, we're into the last third of that transit now by July. the South node will move out of your sign and into Leo, and I'm sure we'll all sigh a bit of a sigh of relief, unless you happen to be a Leo, of course. But certainly for you, Virgo, I've got a couple of Virgo placements, so I get it. But to some extent, we should be really getting a handle on what is being asked for us to leave behind, what is asked to be balanced, what is asked for us to apply our discernment to, right? So let's start up here. This is considerably more cards than I wanted, but I feel like they all are saying something really important at the moment. So, you know, there's things looking one way and then actually being another, Virgo. This is very strong in your life at the moment. Like, the direct experience of it may feel a little Five of Pentacles like, and just to reiterate for those who are not familiar with the meanings of the cards, the Five of Pentacles is first and foremost a relatively chaotic energy. All the fives are in the minor arcana. It is to do with pentacles, which can be material, goods, assets, that kind of thing, like the money in your bank account. But it can also be about value and instability around what you value, how you value, whether you have the things that you value at your disposal. For me, that Five of Pentacles is a really, really strong card of a recognition of not meeting your own basic needs. Now, it can also be a fear of not having enough, right? We're talking about sort of poverty consciousness here. And that can be material, spiritual, emotional, physical, take your pick, right? It can be all of those things. We can be in absolute emotional poverty if we don't have a support network around us, right? No matter how much money we've got in our bank accounts, for example. So I feel like there's a sense here, particularly with that Ten of Cups reversed at the end. So I'm looking at these two cards here. There's a sense that things are breaking down and it's very, very difficult to understand why. In fact, I feel like if there are any problems, it is likely that those problems are trying to keep everything the same rather than moving with the flow of energy that is definitely taking you somewhere. Like I said, the direct experience of that Five of Pentacles is a deeply uncomfortable one, because even if it's a best case scenario of recognizing that we have not met our own basic needs, we recognize that we haven't met our own basic needs, and therefore, you know, we've been moving from a really depleted state. And how efficient and effective can we actually be when we're moving from that place? I mean, the answer is not terribly. But this Ten of Cups is interesting too, because it's one of three cards that you have here in the Where Are You Right Now sector that is speaking to endings and completions. The thing is, I feel like it's not quite where you can see it. That's what I want to say about this. So the three cards that I'm talking about is this Ten of Cups, Ten of Pentacles, and the World card here. All three of these denote an ending of some sort. Now, the Ten of Cups and the Ten of Pentacles are generally the cards that people want to see when they're in a reading, right? It represents the fulfillment of the promise of the Ace, right? So Ace of Pentacles and the Ace of Cups. Here's all this potential, and it wants to turn into a concrete and very realized version of itself, right? It's fulfilling its potential. But the problem with that is that is not a static state, and once that potential has been reached, it is time for it to turn into something else. So the Ten of Pentacles, as the Ten of Cups does, they have a shared meaning sometimes about the family, community, like feeling a part of something that everybody has worked really hard to create. I mean, you know, Cups and Pentacles represent the slowest moving elements that we have working within our lives anyway, and success in those places takes a long time to accrue. Now, people want to see them because there is the promise that accrual has reached its point of completion, and that's all good and all that sort of thing. But there's a sting in the tail with these two cards, and it's the failure to recognize that an end is almost opening the door to a beginning, right? Or this culmination, rather, is opening the door to a new beginning that is supposed to build on the top of what you have already achieved. because everything in the tarot works on cycles, right? But the fact that this is showing up reversed, it makes it feel to me like this is not something that you've got a handle on. It's not something that you are seeing clearly. Now, to some extent, these two cards coming out consecutively is beautiful. As I said, everything in the tarot runs on cycles, cycles within cycles, right? So when we get to the end of the Fool's Journey, and that is represented by the World, which is a card of graduation, completion, well done, you nailed it, this is great, now you get to move on to the next level. Once we've completed, we restart the Fool's Journey from the level of the Fool. Now, hopefully, it's like this, right? We're building on the top of the success that we've already had, and then the Fool will whip through the Fool's Journey again, and eventually we will also end up at the World card before coming back to the Fool, right? There is no getting away from that being the way that it works. So sometimes, if we really cock up, we end up stalling at the Judgment card and never quite reaching that point of completion, and we end up having to go back and do the whole fucking thing again. If you have ever had a period of your life where it seemed like the same thing just kept happening to you again and again and again, and you could, it's the quote by Jung, eminently quotable chap, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. This is what he's talking about, right? It's a subconscious patterns that keep playing out in your life until you notice them and then change something. So if you're really unlucky, right, and it's obviously nothing to do with luck, we follow these patterns within ourselves. As we break them, we create the right environment, the right set of conditions for us to move up to the next level. And believe it or not, this is actually happening, Virgo. I just think that you can't see it. Now, it could be that a lot of the signal of the moment is actually being obscured by the noise of the moment too, and my God, there is so much of it. There's an acceptance of endings going on. There's an acceptance that something is coming to an end, a way of being, a life era perhaps, moving from young and carefree to suddenly, well, I'm about to be a parent, and I've raised my children, now my children are leaving home. It's moving into a different era of life. But I don't think that you can see that, Virgo, because although this is what's happening in the center, this at the periphery is almost like the cover. It's almost coming up, like bulging over the top, where it feels like we don't have what we need. We certainly don't have any support around us. It's not like you're resisting the end of a situation. It feels like it's ending despite your best interventions. I mean, some aspect of this is actually just screaming loneliness, Virgo, which would be really understandable. It really would. I mean, the South Node is no joke. When it moves through your sign, we feel it. We really feel it. That's why I'm really excited about it coming into Leo. But it doesn't do it to punish us. And that it feels like it's being perceived somewhat as a punishing. At the same time, though, because you're doing all the right things in the right order, I actually can't criticise. I wouldn't dream of criticising anyway, like anything that you're doing. It's just that it hurts so much. It just feels like there's an emptiness. But that emptiness is important because what it is doing is denoting that space is being created. This is what the South Node does. Is it creates space. To some extent, it's what the Death card does, right? Creates space. But the High Priestess, in order to function, needs space around her. I mean, she governs liminal space, right? She's governing the transition between the end and the beginning. We see that in the Waite-Smith. I don't even know where those cards have got this under my mouse here. In the Waite-Smith, in the pillars that she sits between. Now, whether it's because there are too many things in your head or because your life is too busy, like there are too many things going on, there's like too much complexity. There's a way in which this is all being kind of drawn neatly to conclusion here. Maybe it's because Saturn's been opposing whatever you have in Virgo for a while, right? You've been feeling that grind, and additionally then you've had the South Node moving through your sign too. This is all speaking about a release that creates space for something new to move through it. And I have no issue at all with that as a process, as seems to be happening to you. But I'm saddened to see these two cards here, because I know what that feels like, and it feels like the universe is just sort of taking a stick to you for no reason. What these two cards are obscuring in your vision right now, though, is that all this is happening exactly as it should be, and this is actually what's going on behind it. This is the mechanism that is happening behind it. It's completion, culmination, growth. But a shedding of a load. Always with the Fool, there's a shedding of the load, because he moves very easily. You know, he's not encumbered by anything. We're releasing, we're letting go, I need to go and let my cat in, because I was sort of scratching at the door. Hang on a thing. Okay, she's in. She's stopped fucking up my door now. She'll probably come and make an appearance in a minute. Anyway, do you know what, Virgo? It's really easy to have a sunny disposition, to be optimistic, to act like life is going to give you everything that you want when things aren't difficult, right? When the seas just seem to part on every, on every challenge that you come across, and every desire that you want is just somehow accidentally met, and it's all cool. It's a very, very different thing to find a way to dig into what is real and to be optimistic about the future when things are difficult. And I think for you things are difficult at the moment. Like I said, with the South Node going through Virgo, it kind of comes with the territory, but you've had that additional pressure of Saturn going backwards and forwards at the end of Pisces, opposing everything across the axis from you. That's not to mention any other, transits that might be happening at the same time. But all of this is to show you where the space has always been inside you, right? Where that state of loss exists. Maybe even, we're looking at these two cards here, that wound of not belonging anywhere, of feeling like you were always the better friend out of the friendship group and it never got reciprocated. Maybe it was family. Oh goodness. I now have 3 cats in here. Hopefully they don't all come and photobomb, video bomb, because that'd be really inconvenient. The thing is, Virgo, whenever the Fool shows up, issues of trust and faith come to the fore. And so, to go back to what I was just saying there, can you find it within you to be faithful? Can you find it within you to be trusting of yourself? Because I think the biggest problem here has been an internal one. The High Priestess says that, rather than external environments, to some extent or another. Like, well, there's been a match here somewhere between the life experiences that you've had and the internal state that was receiving those, or interacting with those, or controlling those, or failing to control those, right? Whichever way around it goes. But there's something happening here for the higher good, and I try not to use that phrase too often, because sometimes it comes across like idle platitudes or spiritual bypassing, right? But Ten of Pentacles, the World, and the Fool is longer term. There's something much more important than what your immediate feelings and your immediate experience is telling you is actually happening. It's just that these cards are obscuring any sense of that, right? But this feeling that I've got that space is being created, the experience of that might be quite jarring, potentially. So we've got the High Priestess here. Let's move this one out of the way. We don't need to see her. And she's actually informing every single one of the rows that we have here, right? So we talked about how she's moving through here, but she's also having an influence on this. And the question that I asked here was how to move through the uncertainty. In your case, Virgo, and this is rather intriguing take, I feel like what's needed is the introduction of the idea of uncertainty into yourself, right? Because you're trying very hard, it feels to me, to keep things up and moving, right? Virgos would do that. But because you can't see the bigger picture, because you can't see what's going on behind, because you have no sense of this being for your higher good, what it feels to me is that you're kind of locked in this state of everything's just shit. And the uncertainty that I'm asking you to introduce is, what if that was not the case? What if every situation has a natural expiry date on it? And where the suffering starts to come in is where we fail to observe that. That for me is the essence of the Ten of Pentacles and the Ten of Cups, interestingly enough. It's like recognizing that natural expiry, because what is the most consistent thing in the universe? The fact that everything changes. So can we introduce this uncertainty enough in the hope that if we can recognize that we don't really know what's going on and we can't really see where this is going and we don't really have the answers, not in the way that we think that we do, because we can't see the full picture, that in your case uncertainty would actually be a bit of a blessing. I feel like it would be easier for you to carry while you're in this state. The possibility that hope may spring eternal and this may be going somewhere that is actually quite useful for us. So this is this clearing of the decks going on. And if we can do that, then things start to look a little less certainly shit and maybe a little bit more uncertainly unpredictable, but let's ride it out and let's see where it goes. Now, I understand what I'm asking of you, because you're a sign who likes to know exactly where they are and what they're doing next and what the itinerary is and all that kind of thing. And we're not in those times at the moment. We really are not. So the advice in moving through the uncertainty in the first instance is recognizing that you don't have all of the answers. And I think that's really important for you, Virgo, because this Five of Wands, this Saturn and Leo card, it talks about struggle. It talks about strife. And fuck me, you are definitely there. You have that going on. But it seems to be a part of you that you don't want to accept exists, right? It's almost like you've stripped the utility of uncertainty away, and that would be very natural and very much in keeping with your sign, right? In favour of nailing down certainties, even if they are only half of the story. And again, I do feel like they're only half of the story. I would love to get to a point where people can quite easily say, I don't know, and be all right with that. Because I think your nervous system has tried to, and your emotions and all sorts of things, has tried to latch on to the one thing that you know for sure. And it's coming across more like you feel like you're being punished. There is absolutely no way that this could possibly be going anywhere good. So everything then becomes about bracing for the inevitable impact. And do you know what, Virgo? That's really exhausting. On top of an exhaustion that you already feel, because the South Node's been going through your sign for a year now, And Saturn's been opposing everything in Virgo, at least by house, if not degree, for 3 years now. I think it takes a very strong person to say, I don't know. I really don't know, but I'm willing to just ride it out and see what happens. I don't have to have all of the answers. But if you can recognise that you're trying to clamp onto something that does feel certain, even if it feels inherently negative, at least you know where you are with it. Feel like that's the thing that's happening. If you're supposed to be feeling uncertain, if you're supposed to be feeling a little bit like, well, I don't really know what happens next, but I keep putting one foot in front of the other and it's okay so far, then what we don't have is you descending into this kind of battle mode where you're expecting to be attacked at any given point, whether by, hopefully not by people, right, but not physically, but attacked by circumstances, attacked by the thing that you didn't see coming. Why? Because you were uncertain and you didn't expect it, and now what little bit of hope that you have has been dashed to the floor, right? Can you tell I've been there before? I fucking know this, this whole fucking reaction so well. And bring the Queen of Swords into play. I love the Queen of Swords so much, I can't even tell you. For a long time, she was my significator. Even though, you know, it's just not my queen at all. It was the one that I felt the most attachment to. And what does she do really well? She tests for truth. She's incredibly discerning. But she is, above all things, objective. And I feel like what's passing for objectivity in your life at the moment, Virgo, is actually being scared and clutching at the worst case scenario, because then at least you can prepare for it. That's what this feels like. And honestly, it couldn't actually be further away from the truth. You know, the High Priestess denotes a heightened sensitivity. For sure, heightened psychism and all sorts of things, right? But that increased sensitivity, if it's working with only half the information, which is what it feels like is happening here, can make everything seem almost limitless in its scope, which is to say its scope for things being shit. The objectivity and discernment that you're being asked to apply to your own situation is you know, fuck me, I'm actually about to do a video on this, kind of like a survival toolkit for 2026, which I based loosely around the idea of grounding exercises that you do for people who have panic attacks, right? My daughter used to suffer from them a lot when she was in her teens. So they're like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? 5 things that you can hear, 4 things that you can see, you know, it's the other way around, but you know what I mean. Trying to bring sensitivity and awareness back into the body so that we can actually deal with what is, not what is going on up there. This Queen of Swords is saying, like, what's the reality of your situation? Bearing in mind that everything changes, and we know that for a fact. It would be very, very difficult for the universe to keep you in a rictus, or in a rigor, rather, of uniform negativity. Something has to give somewhere. And this is borne out by this here too, Virgo. If you've been around for a while, you'll have heard me talking about the importance of the 5 of Wands being read in tandem with the 6 of Wands. Almost like the presence of one implies the other, or the absence of the other should imply, very importantly, what is missing from the picture. In this case, we skip from the Five of Wands straight to the Seven of Wands. We move from everything's difficult, everything's a struggle, everything's shit and very Saturnian to, and now I need to defend myself. I need to protect myself no matter what. And what is missing? What's missing is the Six of Wands. The reason why I say that these two should be read in tandem is because the struggle ultimately leads to success. Might not look like the sort of success that we were after, but it leads to success, right? But equally, if we achieve success with no element of struggle to us, experienced by us at all, it's kind of an empty victory. It doesn't really mean anything. It's the same way that, things that you buy when you've grafted really fucking hard and saved for them, for the longest time, why we tend to look after them a little bit more. We don't take them for granted because we know what blood, sweat and tears had to be expended in order to get that thing in the first place. All you have seen is struggle. All you've experienced recently has been struggle. You've kind of locked down on a narrative about that. And in doing so, you've almost removed the meaning from the struggle that you're in. If you can recognize your struggle for what it is, which is a temporary struggle, which, as all things do, will pass, not something that you need to really clamp to as being something that is speaking to the character of your soul or something like that. I mean, I would get dramatic like that. I don't know if you do, Virgo, right? But certainly in my biggest spiral moments, I'm like, well, I must just be fucking evil and deserve all of this. Well, I struggled with a bit of a victim complex, right? Logically speaking, it is inconceivable that this situation won't pass. It's inconceivable. And if we can hold that and say, well, I'm struggling right now, and I'm actually allowing myself to struggle because it feels like there's something going on here other than I just don't get to have anything nice because I'm a bad person. Introduce the uncertainty around the things that you have laid down as concrete facts. Space. I feel that sense of space starting to be created within oneself. It feels less tight, less knotted up, and a little bit more like you can breathe. Now, the last set of cards, what story is finished, what narrative, what set of circumstances. I do think, Virgo, that there's something here around a sense of well, look, we know that your identity is definitely has been under refurbishment for a little while, right? Let's say that. And all the things about you that you have clung to are starting to fade away, right? And leave something else in its stead. But what's really interesting about these two cards here is, like, first off, we've got this Page of Swords who's showing up in the reverse, right? And when he shows up in reverse, it means one thing. It's that we don't need any more information to come to the right conclusion about what is finishing. There is nothing that's coming to ambush us. There's nothing that's going to just suddenly be rug pulled from us. Whether it's in terms of circumstances and what we're doing or aspects of our identity, it's like all the pieces are here. We don't need to go looking for any more. But this Seven of Swords feels like the self-castigation. It feels like the self-flagellation. Seven is about the pursuit of truth, right? And I think you've been in a nighttime journey of looking for the truth, right? The long dark night of the soul that we talk about sometimes. And I know what this card is supposed to portray, which is to say this guy stealing the swords and heading off into the night. But I can't help but feel like these swords are actually being plunged into the wood. It's like the story that's ending is the narrative around you being a bad, terrible, wicked person. Insert whichever, self-critical verb adjective you would use to describe yourself. It's coming to an end. Because frankly, it's just too much of a fucking weight to carry. You don't need more information about how you are a fuck up or any of these things. And I do feel like this is where your mind has been going for a little while. It's like, no, you have all of the information. What's ending now, because you, I hope, are choosing to look at it differently, is the need to be thrusting the swords into yourself. There's nothing truthful about that level of self-flagellation or that level of self-criticism or that level of deciding all of this is because you're a failure or because you're wicked or any of these sorts of things. Like, that narrative is done and dusted, because if you sit with it objectively, and particularly if you accept that everything has an expiration date, and I include relationships, jobs, our own very mortal essence. The biggest suffering in breakups and things like that is people not breaking up when actually they were supposed to. Right? They carry on together for much, much longer than they should do. And the problems that were small to start with become amplified. I think if we got a lot more comfortable with the idea that everything has its time, and when it's past, it's time to move on to the next thing, then people wouldn't struggle so much. But there seems to be a narrative of failure that's permeating through all of this, or badness or wickedness or some sort of deficit in character. And it's like, you've thrust so many swords into yourself, Virgo, I'm surprised you can get on the fucking horse. And maybe that's the point. You can't get on the fucking horse while you're covered in swords. Just logistically speaking, it's not very comfortable. It's not really doable. Swords hanging out of you at every conceivable angle. Now, remember what I said about judgment right at the beginning. What I said about judgment right at the beginning when we were looking at these cards here is that I was talking about cycles, and how once we've completed a cycle, we've recognised it for what it is, we've changed what needed to be changed, then we go through this graduation of the World card. But sometimes we get stuck on judgment and we get knocked like the snake on square 99 down the snakes and ladders snake to effectively start the whole fucking cycle again. There is a narrative that is finished here, but I don't think that you see it clearly, right? The Seven of Cups absolutely is confirming what I've already said on that front. But the truth of the matter is, and this is really, really important, Virgo, that this, above everything else, is the thing that will knock you back. If you continue with it, if you allow it to perpetuate. Because judgment says, it's time to make the choice. And the choice is conscious. Am I going to carry around all of these swords so that, when something happens that I don't like, I'm going to run myself through with it? Or am I going to put the fucking swords down? The Seven of Cups is a kind of illusory energy, right? I think if Neptune had a correspondence in the tarot, certainly it would be touching base with the Seven of Cups. And there are lots of different ways to interpret what's going on, but it's double seven. We're looking for a truth that is illusory. And the level of truth that you've been working to is something that is kind of off, right? The rules apply to you, Virgo, as much as they apply to everybody else. And I'm speaking from experience here when I say You know, when we decide that we are clearly bad, wicked, all these things, and we deserve all these crap things that we get, even though we resent it and we fucking hate it, and why won't the universe give us a break and all those kinds of things, when we're stuck in that loop of self-flagellation, when we're stuck in that loop of fear of failure, or feeling the crushing defeat of you know, something that we consider ourselves to have failed at, we are the ones who are getting in our own way. In this kind of mindset, what we do is throw out the truth and look for the things that confirm our biases. This Nine of Wands here. I know, the Nine of Wands for me is all about how you manage whatever suit they represent. So it's like, it's your actions. It's about boundaries too. Are you prepared to leave an old narrative behind that, quite frankly, is old and tired and not borne out by objective engagement? It's like, you're not thinking logically at the moment, and I think you kind of know that you are, but it's more comfortable, it's safer, because at least nothing's ambushing you. I mean, what you're being asked for here, and it really is the thing that propels these cards here to the fore, is, can you take that leap of faith to not believe everything that you think? Introduce that little bit of uncertainty. What if I was wrong? What if actually I'm just having a rough couple of years and this too shall pass, just like everything fucking does? There's something really subtle going on with your nervous system, Virgo, and it's I do feel it has a lot around the trying to eliminate the uncertainty. You're looking for safety, you're looking for guarantees, and this is why you've been clutching on to things that have passed their expiration date. But in doing that, you're denying yourself the expression of skills and talents and capabilities that you have. You're keeping yourself small. You're saying, I can't cope unless everything's like this. And that actually isn't true. I think you've got plenty of evidence already to say that that isn't true. You just need to look at it with a different set of eyes. Like, what we're talking about here actually is somebody standing on the threshold of rebirth. And the question is are you going to throw yourself into the void, or are you going to stick with what you know? Even though what you know is severing fucking spiritual arteries and veins everywhere. It's draining you. It's exhausting you. Feels like at this point, surely it would be less effort to let go of that old narrative than to continue to perpetuate it. There's a lot of complex emotion that's coming off these cards here for me. But like I said, it's all about creating space. You don't lose your identity if you let go of this. You don't lose your humanity if you let go of this. You don't lose what is wonderful about you if you let go of this. You give yourself an opportunity to experience yourself as you actually are. And I think I'm going to leave it here, because not only have I prattled on considerably fucking longer than I meant to, I actually feel myself getting quite emotional. I'm like, I ain't having that. Thank you very much. It's a two-way thing that's going on here. So I'm going to leave it here. If you would like to join me for the extended, you're very welcome to do so. I said the link is in the description box below. Honestly, it is that straightforward. It is that choose something else. Not easy, but once you've done it, you wonder why it took you so long. Right, know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.